The colony beacon had been dormant for years, yet it suddenly flickered to life, broadcasting coordinates to a planet that doesn't exist on any map. The signal was a haunting pulse, echoing through the dark void of space, drawing the attention of the nearby research ship, the Daedalus. Captain Mea Ellison, an experienced pilot with a history of navigating the unknown, felt an unsettling chill as she listened to the static-laden transmission. "Help us," the message repeated, warped and desperate. Questions swirled in her mind. Who was calling? Why now? Mira's heart raced. The coordinates led to Arcturus 4, a desolate planet rumored to be abandoned after a catastrophic mining accident. The colony had been wiped out, or so everyone thought. As the Daedalus drifted closer, the once silent planet loomed large through the viewport, its surface a patchwork of jagged rocks and ominous shadows. An eerie silence enveloped the ship, broken only by the occasional crackle of static from the beacon. Mea felt a sense of foreboding settle in her stomach. The atmosphere was thick with dread, as if the very air was warning her to turn back. The crew, a mix of seasoned scientists and eager interns, sensed the tension. Mira's first officer, Jax, glanced at her, his brow furrowed. "Do you really think anyone is alive down there?" he asked, his voice low and tinged with skepticism. "I don't know," she replied, her gaze locked on the dark planet. "But we have to find out if someone is in danger." Suddenly, the ship jolted. Alarms blared, and the lights flickered. Mira's heart leaped into her throat. "What the hell was that?" she shouted, gripping the control panel. Jax scrambled to his station. "We've lost thrusters. We're being pulled off course." The ship shuddered again, and Mea felt the cold grip of fear tighten around her. An unseen force was dragging them closer to the planet's surface. "Brace for impact," she yelled, adrenaline surging through her veins. The ship spiraled downward, and the beacon's message echoed in her mind. "Help us." As they crashed toward the unknown, the words twisted into a haunting promise. Something was waiting for them below, and they were about to find out what. The impact was jarring, a violent shudder that rattled every metal beam of the Daedalus. Alarms blared in protest as Mea struggled to regain control. The ship skidded across the rocky surface of Arcturus 4, finally coming to a halt with a sickening crunch. Dust and debris filled the air, casting a murky veil over the cabin. Mea blinked through the haze, her heart racing. "Status report," she shouted. The crew scrambled to assess the damage, but the atmosphere thick with anxiety made it hard to focus. "Power's down to minimal," Jax replied, breathless. "We've lost navigation and communications. It's like the planet has swallowed our systems." Mira's stomach tightened. They were stranded, isolated on a desolate world, cut off from the rest of the galaxy. The beacon's call still echoed in her mind, a ghostly reminder of their purpose. "We need to investigate the colony," she said, her voice steady despite the gnawing dread inside her. There could be survivors. The crew exchanged worried glances, but they knew better than to question her. They gathered their equipment, flashlights, medkits, and a scanner that flickered dimly, showing only static. As they disembarked, the air was heavy, saturated with an unsettling stillness. The landscape stretched before them. Twisted rock formations loomed like jagged teeth under a sickly green sky. With each step, Mea felt a creeping sensation, as if the ground beneath her was alive and watching. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the crunch of their boots on the gravel. "It's too quiet," Jax muttered, scanning the horizon. "Where is everyone?" As they approached the remnants of the colony, the buildings appeared warped and decayed, as if time had gnawed at their structures. Flickering lights struggled to stay alive, casting ghostly shadows that danced along the walls. A metallic scent hung in the air, mingling with the dampness of the ground. "Look," one of the interns, Zara, pointed toward a building with an open door. "That's the main hub." They stepped inside, their footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness. The room was littered with abandoned equipment, screens frozen on desperate faces. But what caught Mira's attention was a series of logs displayed on the wall. "Help us," the logs repeated, each entry more frantic than the last. "It's here, it watches, we are not alone." As Mea read, a chill crept down her spine. The words felt like a warning, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being observed. A soft whisper brushed against her ear, almost intelligible, sending shivers through her body. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The crew exchanged nervous glances, but before they could respond, the lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness. Panic surged as they fumbled for their flashlights, but the darkness felt different, alive, oppressive. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices pleading, warning. Something was lurking in the shadows, and they had ventured too far into its domain. The darkness swallowed them whole, the air thick with an unshakable dread. Mea fumbled with her flashlight, its beam flickering against the cold, damp walls. The whispers wrapped around her like a suffocating shroud, each word igniting a primal fear deep within. "It's here, it watches. Stay close," she commanded, trying to sound authoritative, but her voice trembled. The crew huddled together, their faces pale with fear. Jax's flashlight illuminated a slumped figure in the corner, a colony worker, their eyes wide and unblinking. "Is he?" Zara began, but Mea could already see the answer in the lifeless stare. The body was cold, a chilling reminder of the fate that awaited them. A loud crash echoed from the hallway, and they all jumped. "We need to leave," Mea urged, her heart pounding in her chest. The walls seemed to close in around them, the whispers growing louder, more insistent. As they stumbled toward the exit, a flicker of movement caught Mira's eye. She turned, but there was nothing, just shadows shifting in the corners of her vision. "Did you see that?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "See what?" Jax replied, his brow furrowed in confusion. "Something moved," she insisted, her pulse racing. "In the shadows." "Let's just get out of here," he said, but doubt laced his tone. They emerged into the moonlit night, the cold air biting at their skin. Mea took a deep breath, trying to shake off the feeling of being watched. They hurried towards the central plaza, where a massive monitor still flickered with static, displaying the words, "Help us." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet. Mea steadied herself as the vibrations intensified, sending loose rocks tumbling. "What now?" Zara cried, her eyes wide with terror. "Get to the ship," Mea shouted, but before they could react, a shadow loomed over them, darkening the already eerie landscape. The figure was humanoid but distorted, its features obscured by the dim light. It moved with a fluid grace, its limbs unnaturally elongated. Mira's breath caught in her throat as it approached, the whispers crescendoing into a cacophony of screams. "Run!" Jax yelled, breaking the trance. They sprinted back toward the Daedalus, hearts pounding in their chests. Behind them, the creature pursued, gliding effortlessly over the rocky terrain. Mea could feel the weight of its gaze, an insatiable hunger that sent chills down her spine. Desperate, she fumbled for the ship's emergency lock, her hands shaking as she punched in the access code. "Come on! Come on!" she urged, glancing back to see the creature drawing closer, its shape shifting in the shadows. Finally, The door slid open, and they tumbled inside, slamming it shut just as the creature reached them. The metal groaned in protest as it rattled against the hull. Mea locked the door and collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. "What the hell was that?" Zara whispered, trembling. "I don't know," Mea replied, her mind racing, "but we need to get out of here, now." As she rushed to the control panel, she glanced at the monitors, hoping for a way to escape, but all she saw was static and the haunting message, "Help us." The colony's desperate pleas echoed in her mind, intertwining with her fear. They were not just trapped on this planet. They were caught in a web of something far more sinister. Mea's fingers danced over the control panel, but all she found was chaos. Flashing lights, alarms blaring, and the static of the colony's last desperate messages. "We're not going to make it," Jax whispered, his face pale, eyes darting toward the door. "Stay focused," Mea snapped, though her own heart raced with fear. "We need to reroute power to the thrusters. We can still lift off." Zara's voice trembled as she pointed to the viewport. "It's still out there. It's watching us." Through the thick glass, the creature loomed, its form now more defined, a grotesque parody of humanity. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and Mea felt a cold sweat break out across her back. The whispers had morphed into a low hum, vibrating through the ship's metal frame, echoing with an otherworldly resonance. "Jax, check the engines," Mea commanded, trying to maintain control. "Zara, help me with the power grid." As they scrambled to their tasks, Mea's mind raced with questions. What was this entity? Why had it emerged now, after years of silence? The colony had called out for help, but had it known that something was lurking in the shadows? "Power's dead," Jax shouted from the engine room. "There's no way to get the thrusters online." Mea's heart sank. "Then we have to find another way." She glanced back at the door, where the creature continued to watch, its presence suffocating. "We can't stay here. We need to find the emergency escape pods." "Are you insane?" Jax protested. "It'll get us before we even reach them." "Better than waiting for it to break in," Mea shot back, adrenaline fueling her resolve. She sprinted toward the hatch leading to the lower decks, the others reluctantly following. As they moved through the darkened corridors, the whispers intensified, swirling around them like a tempest. Mea felt her sanity fraying, the words becoming clearer. Warnings, threats, and promises of despair. "You shouldn't have come," they seemed to say, echoing the doubts that gnawed at her mind. They reached the escape pod bay, but the door was ajar, swinging ominously. Mea's heart raced. "What if it's waiting for us inside?" she whispered. "Then we'll have to face it," Jax replied, his voice steadier now, hardened by fear. They stepped inside, the dim emergency lights casting eerie shadows. The pods were functional, but as Mea began the launch sequence, the atmosphere shifted. The whispers crescendoed into a cacophony of screams, and the creature appeared in the doorway, its form twisting and writhing, a grotesque mockery of life. "Launch!" Mea screamed, her fingers trembling over the buttons. The pod surged to life, but as it powered up, the creature lunged forward, its elongated fingers grasping for them. The pod doors sealed with a hiss, and with a sudden jolt, they were propelled into the void of space. Mea gasped as the colony faded from view, the whispers slipping away, replaced by the oppressive silence of the cosmos. But as they drifted, a new horror settled in. The beacon light flickered from the pod's display, still transmitting the chilling message, "Help us." "Did we escape?" Zara asked, her voice barely a whisper. Mea looked at her crew, their faces pale, uncertainty lingering in the air. "We're alive," she said, though doubt gnawed at her. They had escaped the planet, but the weight of what they had encountered pressed heavily upon her. As the pod drifted through the silence, Mea realized the truth. The colony had called for help too late. Their fate was sealed, and now it echoed through the stars, a warning to all who dared to seek the unknown. The whispers would follow them, forever entwined with the darkness of their own choices. A chilling reminder that some doors, once opened, can never be closed.